Kim Potter. There she is. She's no longer an officer, no longer in uniform. Now she is a criminal defendant charged with shooting and killing Daunte Wright. She's been charged with manslaughter. Today was day one of that case. So let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who's joining us live tonight from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Hennepin County, same place where we were earlier this year for the trial of Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered George Floyd. Chanley, good to see you tonight. Let's start with those opening statements today where both sides got to sort of lay out the case. This is not a murder case. This is not a case where they're alleging she did this on purpose. So what is each side saying here?
Right, that was made clear right out of the gate in the opening statements for the prosecution, Vinny. The Assistant Attorney General, Aaron Eldridge, spent about an hour outlining the prosecution's case against Kim Potter, starting with that Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the force, betrayed her badge, her duty to serve and protect when she shot Daunte Wright April 11th of this year. And the prosecutor went on, Vinny, to describe the extensive training and experience of Kim Potter, training in the months leading up to the incident. The prosecutor also talked about what happened in that incident. In fact, we were able to watch never before seen body cam and dash cam video of different angles of the incident, what Kim Potter did before, during, and after. It was very traumatizing to watch that part. Ultimately, the prosecutor saying to this jury, we don't have to prove any intent in this case that Kim Potter wanted to harm Daunte Wright, but her conscious choice to use force was unreasonable under these circumstances, and that while she was training other officers, Vinny, she only trained them on how to kill someone. She didn't mince words, that prosecutor. But then the defense took over the courtroom, Vinny. Paul Ing tried to repaint the narrative inside, saying that when Kim Potter said, taser, 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 that's what she meant to do, and that was reasonable under those circumstances. The defense attorney said that the actions of Daunte Wright in the situation essentially caused his death because he was putting the lives of the officers in danger by resisting arrest. Had he only complied, he would still be alive today, Vinny. Even going on, Paul Ing went on to say that deadly force, even if she meant to use her handgun, would have been reasonable under those circumstances because the lives of her fellow officers were in danger and that situation had escalated to that point.
Okay, let's just peel that back just a little bit more because this is the new part of the case. This is the part that really stuck out to me. So who was in danger? What is going to be the argument or the view of the defense of what was happening there? Whose life was in danger? Which officer, and what was that officer doing?
Right. So there was an officer that responded to the scene. So Officer Anthony Lucky, who testified today, he was the one supposed to lead this traffic stop because Kim Potter was training Officer Lucky. Officer Lucky in his testimony today said that he called Sergeant Johnson as a backup to respond to help out with the situation. And Sergeant Johnson responded to the passenger side of that white Buick. He's on the passenger side where Daunte Wright's girlfriend is. And the opening statements and the testimony today show in the body camera that he is halfway inside the passenger compartment, half outside, reaching in. And in those moments after, he even tells Kim Potter that if that car would have taken off with him in it, he probably would have died. That's the argument that the defense was making in open statements, Vinny. His life, Sergeant Johnson's life, was in danger because he was halfway in that vehicle. If Daunte Wright had taken off, fled with him in that would have been a seriously bodily injury, if not death. And for Kim Potter to use force in that situation, according to the defense, she was saving Sergeant Johnson's life.
Okay, that's the new page to this whole story. I've watched the video many, many times. We got the new angles now, and now I understand where the defense is going with their case. The first witness today, Daunte Wright's mom, that was some difficult testimony, so emotional, so much heartbreak on that witness stand.
Yeah, it was really heart-wrenching to watch her almost immediately become emotional on the witness stand. She was a spark of life witness for the prosecution and really brought Daunte Wright to life inside the courtroom, Vinny. She showed pictures of her son. She talked about her grandson, Daunte's son, who was 1 year old at the time that Daunte passed away, died. And there was a really gripping moment when she played body cam video of when she went to the scene. So she's on the phone with her son, Vinny, in the moments of this traffic stop, the seconds leading up to the shooting, and calls back and even talks to his girlfriend after the shooting. She goes into great detail describing what the call was like, what she heard, and then she tries to track down, okay, what happened? Where is he located? She calls police. She goes to the scene, and we see her on body cam video, frantic, panicked, trying to find answers. In fact, let's take a listen to part of that from earlier today.
After the phone disconnected, then you heard what you described. What happened next?
I was panicked. I called back. It seemed like 100 times, but I believe it was probably maybe 4 or 5 times, and I kept calling. So finally I FaceTimed. I would say I don't know how much time lapsed, maybe a minute or two. And then a female answered the phone because it was FaceTime. And she was screaming. And I was like, what's wrong? And she said that they shot him. And she faced the phone towards the driver's seat. And my son was laying there. He was unresponsive, and he looked dead. And then I heard somebody say, hang up the phone again, and it disconnected.
It was difficult to listen, and inside the courtroom, there's some poll reporters, of course, Vinny, and I'm going through their notes about what reaction is happening. The jurors completely engrossed in Daunte's mother's testimony, taking a lot of notes, seeming emotional inside the courtroom because also her husband's sitting in there crying, her other children sitting in the gallery also crying. That's what our cameras really don't pick up and see during that testimony.
And any other significant witnesses today?
Oh, absolutely. The officer that Kim Potter was training during the traffic stop, Officer Anthony Lucky, took the stand most of the afternoon. He offered some critical details on direct examination, Vinny, about being a police officer, his background, the training that police officers have there at the Brooklyn Center Police Department, and his experience with tasers. But critically, he talked through step by step what happened in that incident, because again, he was the one leading this traffic stop with Kim Potter. And however, on cross-examination, the defense was able to score some points with Officer Lucky. He essentially agreed with the choice of using a taser under those circumstances, that he agreed that he could not, as officers under their training, let Daunte Wright go based on what was happening in that circumstance or drive away. Otherwise, he would have been fleeing from a police officer, which was a felony. And that when asked if he would have used a taser, he said yes, he would have used a taser in that moment because Daunte Wright was not in control of the vehicle. And as a policy, he said that it would be appropriate and feasible to use a taser in that situation. And that reminds me, Vinny, of what I've read in court documents where the defense contends that that car was in park. It was not operational at that time. And so we'll see, what the jury actually decides at the end of the day. But his testimony definitely went both ways this afternoon.
Absolutely. And I think we've really got some focus here because going in, there's not a huge discrepancy in the view of the facts, but there is some, and it's very significant. Chanley Painter will be talking throughout the program tonight. Let's bring in our think tank tonight, get some reaction. Joining us in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. In Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series, which you need to check out, Trapped with Ms. Arias. Kirk Nurmi is with us. Welcome, everyone. Okay, if in fact this case ends up being about whether or not the attempted use of a taser was appropriate or not, if that is the use of force and whether or not that's appropriate, I think it's a tough case for prosecutors if that's where the focus is, but that seems to be one of the avenues prosecutors are going down here. Eklund, what are your thoughts about that issue? Prosecutors saying the taser should not even have been an option in this circumstance.
I can see what they're trying to do. I can see how they're giving the jury a little bit more wiggle room to figure out what was actually reckless or wanton in this case. So I can see why they would use that. I don't know how successful it may be. I would focus on the fact that the mistake, I would focus on her experience. I love the opening statement from the prosecutor stating that he was, that the officer was an officer as long as, Mr. Wright was alive. I love that. I think that they should keep the same momentum. I think that if you just keep the same momentum, they'll be successful.
Nima Rahmani, do you like the way that this case has been framed by the prosecutor? These are not the easiest cases. These are the tough cases because the intent element is out the door. So you're attempting to convict someone of a crime without criminal intent here. So do you like the way it's been framed by prosecutors?
Vinny, I don't like the taser argument at all. I mean, first of all, it's a very tough argument, and you're going to lose some of the jurors who know that Daunte Wright has a warrant, that there's a protective order, a restraining order, and that officers had every reason to lawfully arrest him. So, you're going down a route that you don't really need to go, and you might lose some of these jurors. I mean, let's not forget, this is no Derek Chauvin here. What we saw today is a extremely sad Kim Potter who's sobbing on the side of the street after she realizes she shot Daunte Wright. So you really want to make sure that you go in tactically and aggressively on the argument that makes sense. And really, what Eklund said, you've been an officer for many years. You know that your taser is on the left. You don't pull from the right. It was a mistake. It was reckless. There's culpable negligence. Stick with what you know and what you can prove, not the fact that you shouldn't be using a taser in the first place. I don't like that argument at all in this case.
Kirk Nurmi, what are your thoughts about the video itself? And today we got a few new angles to this video. Does it shed more light on what happened? Does it help prosecutors more? Does it help the defense more?
Ultimately, Vinny, I think it helps the defense because of what Officer Potter said and some of what Nima said too. Before she fired the gun, you hear Officer Potter say, taser, taser, taser. That clearly demonstrates her intent. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, if we're talking about this battlefield of whether or not a taser should have been employed or not, and then we see these few seconds in time and this happening, and then Officer Potter remorseful on the sidewalk, upset that she shot him, then it becomes all these videos and everything surrounding it becomes demonstrative of this brief moment in time and the idea that this very well could just be a tragic mistake.